Hey guys, welcome back. It's Mike with K.I.S.S Dog Training, and today we're going to have another little talk about dogs and dog training. More specifically, we are going to talk about crates. This could be a long, leggy, um, going in every direction conversation, but I have had a couple of clients here recently that were really resistant to crate training as a way to manage behavior. And then because of that resistance, the way that they did the crate training, I think made the dogs dislike the crate. And it was one of those things that I think we ought to just talk about crates in general and kind of see where we go from there and see what questions we get. So I guess let's start with the simplest part. How do I use a crate and what do I use a crate for? I think that it's important when a dog is new to a home or young that we start with routines. I tell my clients on a regular basis, you're going to hear me say the word routine hundreds, if not thousands of times when you work with me, because dog training is about consistency and frequency, which is building routines. So in that first session, when I meet with people, we talk about how we can utilize the crate as a way to manage some behaviors that most people have issues with that call a dog trainer. Okay, number one, when the doorbell rings, many dogs are conditioned to run to the front door, act like fools, and jump all over people. And then it becomes a routine that the doorbell triggers them to go to the front door. So we always start with doorbell rings, put the dog in the crate. Okay. Now, let's back up here. I'm going to kind of stop and reverse progress a little bit here, because the one thing we didn't talk about before I started going right into how I use a crate is where do we put the crate? A lot of people will put the crate in the basement, or they'll put it in a back bedroom or a laundry room. And that kind of isolates a dog away from the family, the life, the action, and to me, that's the wrong choice. In dog training, you can isolate a dog from triggers or you can separate a dog from triggers. Now, let me explain that. If I isolate, put the dog in a back bedroom, let the house guests come in, which stops the jumping from happening right at the front door. You have your house guests come in and sit on the couch. You turn the dog loose from the back bedroom. The dog turns the corner and they see a new person in the house. They overstimulate. They jump all over the person. So really all you've effectively done is move the bad behavior from the front door to maybe the couch or the kitchen table or wherever you have people come in. Now, if we do it a different way, let's say separate the dog. And what I mean by that is you take away the dog's ability to perform the bad behavior, but you put them in a situation where they can see the person and get used to the person and realize that the person is okay. Mom and dad like them. Everybody's calm. Everybody's cool. And let them kind of decompress for maybe 5 or 10 minutes and then say hello. You usually have a lot better reaction. If you're listening to this video and you have a dog who jumps all over people when they come into your house, you probably realize that, like most people, it only happens for about the first 10 or 15 minutes. So if we were to manage the dog in that first 10 or 15 minutes and then let him out, the dog would quit practicing the behavior that you think is bad and would start realizing the quicker I calm down, the quicker I get to come out. So in a situation like this, the crate should be somewhere in maybe the kitchen, living room area of the house where all the action happens. I want the dog to normalize, habituate, desensitize, whatever fancy words you want to use, to being part of the action of the house, okay? So with that being said, let's jump back into the way I use a crate. We got the crate in the right spot. Doorbell rings. I say, hey, Fido, come on, let's go get in your crate. And I will put the dog in the crate, give him a cookie, shut the door, then go answer the door. Now, you might have to kind of go, hey, I'll be right with you, put the dog away, so on and so forth, and set this up. But the more you do it, the more the routine happens and the better it gets, okay? Also, during this period, when I'm first training with a person, I get them to, a lot of times, half the time we're hand feeding the dog so we can teach skills. But the other half of the food we feed in the bowl in the crate. So the dog gets in this routine of whenever I see the bowl, I run over and get in my crate and we get breakfast. So we're associating a really positive time a couple of times a day during feedings with going in the crate. So there's two things that we do. So feeding time, front doorbell. What about dinner time? When I am cooking a meal or eating a meal, I put the dog in the crate and I give them a Kong or some other long lasting chew or something, Himalayan chew, a bully stick, something I can manage and, keep an eye on because I'm in the same room with them. Okay. And that helps them in these longer time periods, which we're about to talk about, to be okay with being in the crate. There's positive reinforcement to it. So if I'm cooking or I'm eating, the dog is in the crate. They've got their special crate treat, and I'm eating or cooking a meal. Another thing that I do with crates is I want 30 minutes of TV time, one 30-minute TV program a night where we put the dog in the crate, again with a special reward treat, and we watch an episode of Big Bang Theory or whatever we're going to be watching on TV. And the dog is now learning that I can be in the crate, be okay with confinement, be okay with some frustration, some impulse control, and learning that this is my spot in the room. Okay, we move forward. The other aspect of the crate training that I would probably throw into this with people, and I do this probably more with puppies than I do older dogs, but I'll have the client set their alarm on their phone at 10, 12, 2, and 4, and we practice nap times. Now, at the very beginning, especially with a puppy, nap times are tiny. It's 10 o'clock, alarm goes off, I lure the dog into the crate, give him a cookie, shut the door, and, I might go check email, I might, watch my TV, check my phone, do some social media, whatever I'm doing. But then at the end of 5 minutes, I let the dog out. At 12 o'clock, I do the same thing, 5 minutes. Now, let's say 3 or 4 days into the process, I go from 5 to 7 minutes. Another 3 or 4 days, I might go to 10 minutes. And I have them build in short, easy to handle amounts, build up 4 nap times of 30 minutes a day. Now, these, once we get it started, become the time where, okay, if I've got to go do laundry downstairs in the basement, I can put the dog in the crate if they're not trustworthy in the house yet. It could be I have to go take a shower. This gives me the ability to do that. If I have to run somewhere quick and go pick up a cup of coffee or do something quick, just leave and come back. These give me opportunities to manage my dog and do it. So when somebody says, well, what do you do with a crate? That's what I do. Now, I think the biggest mistake people make is they'll get a crate and the only time they use it is when they leave the house and they go to bed. So I go to bed, I put the dog in the crate. I leave the house, I put the dog in the crate. And over a period of time, the dog starts to realize the only time I go in the crate is when I lose my family. If you notice all the examples I gave you of when I'm training somebody, what I do with a crate, it's when I'm present so that the crate becomes more normal. When you think about separation anxiety, the dogs who have separation anxiety are the dogs who don't know the owner's coming back. So the crate becomes this, you leave and you're gone for a really long period of time with sleeping or going to work or whatever. But if we can tinker with these smaller visits to the crate for little bits of time, it becomes normal and you're constantly putting me in and letting me out and it becomes a normal situation, okay? Now, a lot of people in dog training love the place command, okay? So I'm going to use the front door for an example. And doorbell rings, I'm going to go put the dog on a bed, I'm going to say stay, and I'm going to go answer the door, and the dog is in a place, and they're supposed to stay there when I open the door. So I'm going to use the example of kids here. And you got to learn addition and subtraction. You got to then learn multiplication and division. Then you got to learn, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which is the order of operations before we can ever get to algebra or calculus or some of the more advanced math. The place command is not a bad thing. I don't have a problem with it. But what I do have a problem is with a brand new dog, a trainer coming in and trying to teach a place command. Now, if you think back to all the things we were talking about with the crate and how I use them, this is at the beginning of a training process. You're new to a dog. Your dog's got some problem behaviors. We're trying to kind of, tear down bad behaviors and rebuild good behaviors. I'm going to start with the crate. I'm going to get the crate normalized. And when I can trust the dog and the dog is good, I'm going to get rid of the crate and I'm going to put a bed right where the crate is, and then we can start working on a place command. Hey, go to that spot. I might even say still kennel up, even though there's not a kennel there. Just depends, because the dog already knows kennel up means go to this space in the house. Um, get the dog over there. But I'm not real big on using the place command at the very beginning. We have to kind of build this as a routine, make it normal, make it rewarding, have the dog understand what it is. Then we can kind of go to that place command in a stay. Because when I first start training a dog, chances are the dog doesn't have a great stay. It doesn't understand what a place is because, we've never done it. And things like that. So, this is why I start with the crate and move on. Now, some people will say, I don't want to use a crate at all. That's mean. That's terrible. And if they've got kids, I'll always ask them, did you ever feel bad about putting your kids in a playpen when you couldn't pay attention to them? They'll be, well, of course not. Okay, so I don't want, if you're telling me that I keep my dog in a crate for 12 hours a day, I'm going to kind of push back and I'm going to say that's kind of, you're pushing the outer limits here. We can't really do that. Let's look at doggy daycare. Let's look at a dog sitter. Let's look at a dog walker. Somebody who can come, work on letting the dog out of the crate, spending some time, But, if we're talking 6 up to 8 hours, when a dog is brand new and we can't trust that they're not going to tear something up, they're not going to learn bad behaviors, we don't know the behavior of the dog, so we don't know what to expect. The crate is simply a management device to keep the dog, other people, your stuff in your house safe. And until it's one of those things, when you earn freedom, we move on to it. My dogs sleep with me. I'm one of those trainers that doesn't bother me at all. When I leave, I've got 4 dogs. 2 of them are trustworthy in the house. 2 of them not so much. But I come in and out of the house on a regular basis. It's hilarious. My crates are still up in the house, and a lot of times the other 2 dogs who were crate trained will be asleep with the door wide open because that's their spot. Okay, so if you're somebody, now this is kind of the entire crux of this little talk here, is that if you don't like the idea of a crate, and you're constantly letting the dog out of the crate, or you're not being consistent, or you feel guilty, you're going to be sending the signal to the dog that this spot is bad. That's why I keep letting you out every time you whine or you cry or you do whatever. Or maybe it's, okay, the trainer told me to do this, so I will hammer the dog with a 4-hour, time in the crate because I don't have time to train daily, which I would argue it's easier to do 15, 20 minutes of work 7 days a week than it is to try to do an hour and a half when you've gotten behind. And when you do get behind, don't do an hour and a half. Just start your 15 minutes and be consistent and frequent. But if you're putting the dog only in the crate when you go to bed, if you're only putting the dog in the crate when you leave the house, if you're working the crate too hard or too inconsistently, or when the dog does cry, we let them out. To give you a good example, I'm shooting this video right now, and one of my sons is visiting, and we have 6 dogs in the house. Guess what? My son's in the backyard with the dog so that I can do this video and manage it in a way that you think that my house is nice and quiet and it's wonderful. It's not, trust me. But I've managed the situation so I can do this video. I think we need to be able to be flexible, work it, do it daily, pair it with good things like food and fun and Kongs and short times in, and then let them out and build it up to longer times. I haven't even talked about utilizing a crate with, let's say, a reactive or an aggressive dog, whether it's to another dog or something. And crates, ironically, don't even have to be crates, but we have to have management. So let's say we have one of these houses that have big, huge open floor plans. It's really hard to use baby gates, okay? But I'm going to tell you right now, I have some clients that are just like, look, I don't want a crate in my house. Logically, I always kind of go back to, okay, you got a dog, but you don't want a crate. Why'd you get the dog if you don't want to do the work that's required with a dog? But in some cases, we'll be like, okay, well, then what's the next best option? Okay, we can try to use a room and put a baby gate up to where they can still see the action. And when the doorbell rings, they go in there. If I eat, they go in there. Um, and this gives me a chance to where if I had two dogs, I could have one dog in one zone, another dog in another. So instead of keeping them in crates, I can kind of use that crate and rotate of one's in, one's out, with one dog's in a room, one dog's out of a room. Crates also work great when babies are involved. If you're expecting, I want to give the dog a safe spot so as this child grows up and develops and becomes more mobile, if the dog is uncomfortable, I can kind of move and go get in my crate, and that gives the parents the visual cue of, okay, the dog's uncomfortable, let's move the child. So, I mean, there's tons of wonderful ways to do a crate, and most of the people who dislike it are maybe thinking that we're going to punish the dog in the crate, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and it's going to be a bad thing. But I think really, if you look at the crate more as a playpen that I need when I can't mentally check in on you and keep an eye on you, I can manage you here. If I have to go take a shower, if I'm going to go eat, if I have to be on a Zoom call, I'm going to put you here. And here's the deal. If you're not going to spend the time, with the fact that my 4 dogs and my son's 2 dogs who are visiting for the weekend don't get to see each other a lot of time. If I had them in the house right now, you'd hear barking and running and knocking over furniture because we all got big dogs, and they'd be having a blast and we'd all be giggling and laughing. But there's no way I could do a conference call if I'm working from home that way. So if I want my dog in the crate, this is another one. People will wait till the last minute and go, oh crap, I'm going to be on a conference call. I'm going to throw the dog in the crate. And then the dog is howling while you're on a conference call. And you just never gave the dog a chance to learn to get used to the crate before you did it. So there's a ton of things here, and I'm hoping that a lot of questions about crates and how to use them and specifics will come up from this conversation, and we can kind of do deeper dives into some of the topics. But just like anything in dog training, there really aren't bad tools. There's just bad application of tools. There's some examples out there. I mean, I don't use choke chains. I don't use prong collars. I'm not going to use a shock collar. Those are tools I choose not to use. Crates, if they're used right, are not bad. They're actually really good for management and helping you live your life with a dog until they learn the rules and routines of the house. So don't be scared of them. As long as you have some time and you will spend some, what's a reasonable amount of time? I think easily within 6, 8, 10 weeks, you can have a dog crate trained with no problems asked. Now, if you're the kind of person where I'll crate train 3 days a week and then I'm going to take a week off because work got crazy or the kids had soccer practice. When I say 6, 8, 10 weeks, I'm talking about working daily, 20 to 30 minutes a day. Little bits here and there. If you work from home, it's a lot easier than if you have to be out of the house 8 hours. That's where we're going to talk about doggy daycare and other things to break up the monotony of the day for the dog. But, hey, it's a little bit about the crate, a little bit of what I've been talking to clients about, and hopefully it gives you some ideas or gives you some questions that you can either email us, Facebook us, contact us through the website, whatever. If you've got questions about crates, let's talk about it, and let's have me help you live a better life with your dog. It's Mike with K.I.S.S Dog Training. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.